Welcome back to the Schmitter's 100 Acre Woods. So, got day 3 going of this edition. So, starting out by getting this hill sculpted a little bit more. Had a little bit of time to dry from last time we were out here. So, you can see we have our tilting bucket on. It's a flat edge bucket that we built. I think I built this before, really had the page going, so I don't know that I have too much video of building that. But basically just connects to the backhoe here with the quick attach, and we built it from an existing bucket that I bought off of Messick's. It was one of their Neil's deals, so I got a pretty cheap bucket. Went from a 4-foot bucket down to a 3, and just make it a little bit more manageable, and put some bracing and everything in there. So it's a nice flat face bucket you can use for a little bit of ditching, but then made it tilt so you can use it in more scenarios. I'm gonna have to continue doing a little bit of sculpting on this, but he gets a pretty good start here. Essentially what we want to do is get it enough to where you can kind of run the 0 turn on there and get a little bit of grass growing, just so that, you know, it holds that dirt. But he works on getting that, and then I get the landscape fabric out, or the this is just fabric that goes over the ditch, so that when we put dirt on it, the dirt doesn't instantly migrate down, but it will let the water go through. And obviously utilize the ditch. So I get that put on all of our rock, and then start kind of utilizing the dirt we dug out and kind of start filling. That other part, we want dirt on it, kind of get it covered up, and then just put some dirt here to kind of help get that leveled up. There's a pretty good dip there, so kind of just utilize dirt to get that cleaned up a little bit. So then up front here, have a little bit of a high spot, so use the laser level to kind of figure, you know, where we're at to where we're going, and I had too high in one spot, low in another spot, so use just a little bit of dirt to kind of get it close, and then bring in some 11s and 53 mix to kind of finish leveling that up. And have a little bit of a path there that we'll be able to utilize, that's right next to the block as well. So had a lot of ants in the rock and everything, so go ahead and spray those real quick. And next up, we'll be working on getting the block wall put up. So these blocks are a little bit different than the other blocks that we have, so they don't match up exactly, but this is what they had on hand, like at Menards, that we could readily get, so that's kind of what we utilize here. So as we get these set out, try to kind of get them leveled up as best as possible, so kind of using the laser here on kind of the 2 sides, and then the back, just kind of make sure it's level. For whatever reason, we had a tough time with these blocks really getting them in place. I don't know if it was our base. On the other blocks that we used, we didn't have this much issue, but once we kind of got the first row done, you just stack them on top, and had to go back and do a little bit just because a couple of the corners were off and causing the blocks to rock. So there you can see we had to kind of go back and get those corrected, which is obviously easier to do now than waiting until later on. It's another hot day, so just taking a quick break here. Trying not to get too dehydrated from these hot days we've had that feel like 100 to 110. So then we just stop this just past our pipe and kind of work it and just leave that stair step there. at the end. And you can see we have a little bit of, you know, kind of bend in that wall. And that's just kind of from how that pipe laid, and we're gonna have to dig out a whole bunch to get it to laying perfectly flat, and we're the only ones seeing this, and it wasn't too bad. So you can see we got the rest of that stone put in the back so that it can filter through to that pipe and go out. So here's just utilizing the little tractor to get some of that put in, and then we had a small low spot right there, so put a little bit of dirt in, get it raked out, and then that is the landscape fabric. So main reason we put that down is so that you don't just lose all of your 11s right into the dirt, and you know, they don't disappear right away that way. So get that laid out. It was a 12.5 by 27 sheet. We just utilized all that and got those laid out, so kind of sparingly with the 11s to begin with, so we kind of figure out how many we'll have left over. We say we're gonna have plenty left over from that triaxle, so we end up putting a little bit more in later on, but we just kind of get started just so that whenever we start working on putting these poles in, we're not standing in the dirt. Just getting a quick measure on how big these are, make sure they're about the same, at least on one side, and also that gives us a determination on how big of a hole we need to dig. Because the dirt's pretty soft, we just use post hole diggers and a long-handled spade to get those dug out. So already got one started here, got the other one marked, and okay, got these two dug down 3 feet, so have that one, and then that other side. We're going to put those in the hole. So we have some phone poles that I showed you earlier. Take those, put those in the hole, kind of get them squared up, and then we'll get our third one. Need 3 just because we don't have, or we're not going to use an LVL back here. The span was 24 feet. We're going to use some red oak that we milled, and it's only about 14. So the 14 will let us sit on the post, overlap in the middle at 12, and then join those two together. So have that post in the middle for that meeting point, but starting to come together, and get these in the hole and get that middle one, get it squared up. I think we're just going to use 11s around this for now, and then once we have that, we can start figuring our cross piece to get everything tied together, and then not too long after that, work on the roof. So here, jump back just a little bit, kind of showing getting those holes set up. So put a couple stakes in, so we know we want to go out about that 13 feet is what we determined, and then be at the corner of the building. So we kind of get that all laid out there, and then since we already have the gravel around it, bring the tractor up so we can just put the dirt that we dig out into the bucket. Dirt was pretty soft, a little bit of clay in it though, so wasn't too bad to dig, but went down about 3 feet, and got that 2 outside ones. So basically we put the 2 outside ones since we knew exactly where we wanted to go with those, and then pull a string between those 2 to get the third one set, and so that way if we had any variation from our block wall, because it's not perfectly straight, we can kind of get it set a little bit better from the 2 poles, since that's what the header is going to be sitting on. So you utilize the tractor and the forks to get these put up in there. So a little bit of an issue on this last one, but get a chain where we can pick that up and set it in. And then, like I said, instead of putting concrete, we'll just put 11s around this and get that set that way. So just square those up, put 11s in, kind of pack them in a little bit with a spud bar. or a ground rod kind of fit in there nicely and kind of get those packed in. So in here, just getting the gravel removed and start working on getting this third hole set. The long-handled spade is really nice for something like this. You don't end up with a carrot too bad. You can keep expanding that hole. Here's just a look before we get that third pull in of those two. And then here coming up, I'll kind of show you how we put those poles in the ground here. Since he had the forks, basically able to scoop it up and get it close. And I was able to hold one side just because we want to offset a little bit. And we just made sure that the bigger end was in the ground, because we're going to be cutting off about 3 feet of these poles anyway. This is where our bolt-on forks are handy. We're able to just bolt those on real quick. Nothing fancy. So here I'm just holding the pole, so I have it offset so it can go in that hole. And I was wanting to tilt just a little bit, so just holding this side down so we get close. Then I have to set the camera down so I don't see everything real well, but I set it on the tractor to kind of give you some idea. But basically, set you down here. Basically, I'll push this end down, get it started in the hole, and he can start picking up to kind of get it straightened up a little bit. And the other one, we had a little bit of issue with it getting stuck in the dirt, but this one we got straightened up enough that it just fell in. So we can go through and get it set, put the 11s around it next. There's kind of an outside perspective of that. So, makes it look pretty easy there. So here we get our string set. Around the 2 poles, so we can kind of, or we got it removed so we could get that set, and then just use a level to make sure, and then just kind of looking down the pole set to make sure that everything's kind of square. So our last one, or the one closest to the camera here, we need to move a little bit. We were able to push it in just a little bit, something it moved, I don't know when we were working, so we end up having to work with it just a little bit more. So we'll push it in just a little, kind of get it straightened up. So between the level and then just looking down the hill, or looking down the row straight on, they were much better. And really looking, yeah, kind of that middle to bottom part, because you can see how much we're cutting off here. So we set up the laser and measured a point, since they're not all exactly the same height. So we're able to get that determined using the laser, and just marked it. And then obviously our super fine carpentry here, using the chainsaw to get those cut off. these did still have the ground wire going down the side of them, so I got those removed before obviously using the chainsaw. But it is something to note that there is often metal in these bowls, so you may not want to put on your brand new chainsaw chain when doing this. We always have an old one around that we can utilize. So yep, so now we're putting in a spot, notching it for the header. Again, since these aren't square and kind of a pain, go ahead and just use the chainsaw again. Like before, you can see, put some more marks on there using the laser level. So used it to get a specific point that would be constant across all of them. Measured from that point on how far down you need to go. So measured that based off of the header we're going to use, and then kind of got some spots marked at top for them on how far in we want to go. So I think for these we went about 3 inches in, just so that because it's round, you then end up with more of that 2x material inside, so it'll sit inside the pole just a little bit. It'll be on more of the, I guess you could call the meat of the pole instead of right at the very edge. You have to be a little careful cutting this kind of stuff, just because it is of how you know, they treat these poles. You don't want to inhale a lot of that, so it's something to be cautious of or think about when working with these phone poles. But you know, it's not something we're doing every day, and just kind of be cautious that you know, when you're doing it. So I go through and do these for all of the poles, get them you know, set and marked, and get them cut so that we can work on getting the header put up next. Yeah, so here you can see we ended up using a string line, chalk line to mark those. So we just go to the ends, kind of had it set, and then just snap the line so that, you know, it would be straight across, so when we put our pole in or our header in, we don't have any issues with it not wanting to line up. Alright, so here we're utilizing our really big bandsaw to cut the notch in for the overlap of the two beams, or the two headers. So we want about a foot of overlap where it joins in the middle. So go ahead and put those on, put a notch in there, and we did cut the initial part first, but there's a little bit of curve in that these boards, so end up not coming out, so we have to do one more cut, but then we get those out. Just a little snug. So again, just the way these are curved, end up having to do just a little bit deeper cut than the about inch. They are about 2 inches thick. So there, so I got those out, so now they'll overlap, and be able to get those put up. So a lot nicer than having to do a whole bunch of cuts and, you know, put out, or, you know, get all the little chunks out like we've done in the past. So much nicer way of doing that since we have the sawmill available now. So just make sure these don't fall. We put them up with just some screws, and then we go back later and bolt everything together. When these are sticking way past, we go back through and cut those off at the edge of the building, which is basically the edge of those two poles on the outside. So we go ahead and do a double header, so we do one on the outside, one on the inside, and get those set up so that you have, you know, support on both sides. So kind of have a small supply of wood over there, so get those put on and do the same method we did on the first one. Get the sawmill fired up, do a trim on those, go in about a foot, and then we can get those put up. So get those two in place, and that'll just about call it a day for day 3 here. So get all our stuff picked up here, and kind of show you what it looks like in a video real quick of having those two up. Okay, this is gonna be a wrap for today. So essentially what we did is today we got all of this put in with the drain and everything, got our block wall put up, got our post put in, got our crosses put in, the main beams there. Still have to cut these off and cut, but we got them lapped in the middle, and just use a chainsaw to get a little bit of that notch, since these are thumb poles and not square. So we have just a little bit of a rise right there. So it's supposed to rain in the next couple days, so we want to make sure that we have good fall in this part here, but out there we still had a little bit of a rise. So out there in that dirt, we want to make sure that if it does rain, that it will run out and not collect there and cause a mess. So just touching that up, and then I think that's about it for today. So thank you for watching the Schmitter's 100 Acre Woods. Before long we'll have a roof on it and be able to start stacking wood under here. So thank you for watching, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.